Look what I got. I got a Hershey's Kiss, and I got a that's not a chocolate, the other one's chocolate. That's a coffee. I just got my annual mammogram where they give out Hershey's Kisses, and I think if I go through that, I can have a kiss. Ha! So, let's do our reading for today. Here we go. Hearing this, a man sitting at the table with Jesus exclaimed, "What a blessing it will be to attend a banquet in the kingdom of God." Jesus replied with a story. A man prepared a great feast and sent out many invitations. When the banquet was ready, he sent his servant to tell the guests, "Come, the banquet's ready." But they all began making excuses. One said, "I've just bought a field and must inspect it. Please excuse me." Another said, "I've just bought 5 pairs of oxen and I want to try them out. Please excuse me." Another said, "I just got married, so I can't come." The servant returned and told his master what they had said. His master was furious. Page here. Sorry, guys. And said, "Go quickly into the streets and alleys of the towns and invite the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame." After the servant had done this, he reported, "There's still room for more." So the master said, "Go out into the country lanes and behind the hedges and urge anyone you can find to come, so that the house will be full. For none of those I first invited will get even the smallest taste of my banquet." Okay, we're going to try this while driving again. I'm going to be safe here. My only concern is that I can't see my GPS while my video camera is running, so hopefully I get myself home safely. I'm in Arlington Heights, and I'm heading home. So here we go. We're going to give this a try. Let me get my thing over here so I can look at it when we get to stoplights, etc. First I want to talk a little bit about how this thing started out here, because I found it just funny, almost funny about me. So basically, after Jesus had finished saying in the last one about, let's see, okay, let me get stopped here so I can tell you what it said. So he was talking about who should be invited to the banquet and not having the important seat and that kind of thing, right? And then he says, so he tells us how the guy sitting there exclaims, "What a blessing it will be to attend a banquet in the kingdom of God." And at first I was like, oh boy, that was the perfect setup. Like, again, Jesus is not threatened by this, but he sees, this as the perfect opportunity to step into a teaching that he would like to share. So I thought, yeah, that was a great setup. Like, couldn't have planned that any better. And then I thought, isn't it interesting how sometimes what we think isn't really what we think. So this guy thinks, oh, won't it be so wonderful when we're all at a banquet in the kingdom of God? But in reality, he probably doesn't think that. And that's what I think Jesus is getting ready to explain with this story. Let's see if we can get a better angle here at this stop sign. I don't know. So, and of course, I think that here, I think that this story is talking about how the Jewish people really didn't receive the invitation of being with Jesus into God's kingdom very well, and so then he took the party, the invitation to the Gentiles. Okay. So then the other thing the part that seemed funny to me about this when I reflected on this again this morning was, if you listen to yesterday's vlog, that's basically exactly what I said. I was the guy saying, oh, won't it be wonderful? Just being invited into the banquet of the kingdom of God is enough, and shouldn't that be enough? And then then this guy basically says the exact same thing, but then Jesus makes the point of like, yeah, you think it's going to be so wonderful, but the invitation comes to you and you don't even receive the invitation. You're busy doing your other stuff, which is what we're going to jump into next, is the doing their other stuff. You know, they all had all these new goodies that they were excited about, the new field and the oxen and the new wife. But these, I think, goes back to the Mary and Martha story. These are just distractions. In Mary and Martha's story, he calls, I think this is like where he calls all these details. These are the details of life that we think are the main event. But the real main event should be our obsession with him. So that's what that made me think of, was the Martha and Mary story. And then it says, when nobody wanted to come, that the master was furious. And I had a little bit of a reaction to that at first. I was kind of like, he was furious? Like, that seems kind of mean. I don't think of God as being like the furious, mean God. But then I reflected on that more, and I thought, well, what's the alternative to that? So God has put out the invitation for us to come to the banquet, which means experiencing all the richness of God, and God being the only source of richness in existence, the world, the universe, the whatever is beyond that. It's all God is the great thing, and he's offering that to us, and we're saying, no, I think I'd rather go fiddle around with these other distractions. So stupid things, basically sin and our selfishness, are separating us from the greatness of God. How else would I want him to react? Like, that's what I'd want, right? I'd want a God that would be furious at the thought of being separated from me, when I could have had him, and I chose something so trivial. So I guess, I think there's some peace and some reassurance in that. That's really a beautiful thing. And then, going on, he says to go invite, the people who are blind and they're lame and they're, what else did we have here? The poor and the crippled. And thinking about that, my reaction to that was, I wondered if he's talking here about people who were maybe part of the children of Israel, part of their nation, but had some problems. Maybe this is the prostitutes and the tax collectors that they talk about. People who really aren't, okay, hang on, 50 degrees south. That's what I mean. People who aren't really, wouldn't be seen as godly, although we see how Jesus turned all of that upside down. So these are people who have problems and you wouldn't have expected to see invited to the feast. And then after he invites those, then he says, okay, we're not full. Go out into the countryside and the hedges and look for everyone. So I think this would be the people who aren't invited to the feast because they're too far away. So maybe these are the people who are not Jewish, not children of Israel. Maybe that's what it represents, because of their distance. It's not that their problems that separated them from being invited, it's their distance. This, again, probably would have felt like an abomination to the Jewish nation, who saw themselves as the God's chosen people. And I was interested and intrigued by the fact that it said, because my house isn't full. So, what exactly does that mean? His house isn't full. Does that mean that heaven I assume this is talking about the afterlife, can ever be full? And that that he invites more people because there was more room, but then when we run out of room, he's going to stop inviting people? Well, that doesn't make sense to me. So then we have the last point that I kind of wanted to tie in here is similar to saying that the master was furious, and that's the part where he says, for none of these who were first invited, I'm not reading that quite right here, on the interstate I probably shouldn't be reading, I'll stop reading, will even get to taste the smallest bit of my feast, or something to that's my little paraphrase. And again, I'm like, man, that sounds kind of vindictive. Is that like, if I said that, that's might be the spirit that would be behind it, was a spirit of vindictiveness. But again, I was thinking about the character of God, and I feel like here, back to what we talked about a few vlogs ago, about the nature of choice, that true love, God gave us the opportunity to experience true love with Him. To experience true love with God, we have to be able to experience true choice. There has to be a real choice, and the choice has to be real. That may sound repetitive, but what I mean by that is when you make the choice, there has to be some real outcome that makes it have been a true choice. And to not choose God, the outcome is horrible. It's to be separated from all of the greatest goodness for eternity. Like, literally nothing could be worse. It's not like He's going to punish us. It's like, I don't know. I'm not trying to become a theologian here. I'm not a scholar. It's just that what could be worse than being separated from Him? Anyway, so it has to be a real choice. And so when we choose not to come to the banquet, then the reality has to be that we really chose not to get to have the banquet. And our real choice really meant that we don't get any of that. That's sad. Isn't it sad? That makes me sad to think about. So, I just want to say today that I pray that I won't be the guy who sits and says, like I literally said on my vlog yesterday, oh, it's so great to be, just to be invited to the feast is enough. And then, well, it's not saying that's not a problem. The problem is when we say that, but we don't really take the invitation. We really make our lives about ourselves and not about Jesus, and about our ambition and our ego and what we want. So I don't want to be that person. I want to be the person who really does come to the feast and really does love the feast and really does find that amazingness of God. So God, I pray for that in my life.